Yes, guys, welcome to the Fantasy Football Fix Game Week 13 live stream. My name is FPL Nacho, and I am here today to try and answer any of those Game Week 13 questions that you have, with obviously the information taken from fantasyfootballfix.com. Hope you're all doing well. It isn't a panic of a Friday deadline, which is always a joyous occasion. We have Saturday as the deadline, which is always fantastic for me personally. Obviously, I don't know what you guys are like, but I prefer a little bit more of time to relax, chill out on my Fridays, get a bit of an understanding of what I want to do with my team, and then go into Saturday morning with a sort of plan in place to then get it in motion for those games at lunchtime. So let me know if you are tuning in right now. It'd be great to see who is in the chat. Rio, hope you're doing well. Logan is in as well. And Caleb, is it? Caleb, hope you're doing well. And Rio's already dropped a question in there, so I will answer that in a minute. But just a reminder, guys, if you are new around here, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. And of course, if you do enjoy the live stream, make sure you do drop a like on the live stream. It just shows us that you are enjoying it, and it's great to know that it is providing a little bit of value. And as always, if you are new around here, remember that we always hit 50 likes on every live stream. So if you're watching right now, don't be that person who doesn't like the live stream. We are always hitting that 50 like landmark, and it's always fantastic to see that you guys are enjoying it. So always good to see you guys in the chat. Greg, hope we're doing well. And Mazza, hope we're doing well as well. Questioning that, I will answer that in a second. So just to cover off what we're going to be covering in this live stream, Game Week 13 is quite a late time for a lot of managers to be wildcarding, but I have seen it in the community that it is a chance for those to fire it off on the last minute. So we're going to be doing a wildcard draft reveal. I'm also going to be covering off my current transfer plans going into Game Week 13. We're going to be looking at Foden versus Saka, because I know right now that is basically the topic that everybody is discussing right now in the community. So I think that is worthwhile us discussing, because it does feel very much one of those where you can get to one and not the other. So we're going to cover off that, and then we are going to reveal in, of course, the projected points going into Game Week 13. Now, we need to remember that when we are considering our transfers, we very much are in a position right now where we're only looking at a 4 game week sprint. So we're not looking to own players for 6, 7, 8 game weeks. Each transfer matters right now, and knowing that we only have 4 game weeks, they need to be players that you're bringing in that you think can deliver over that short period. So sometimes those defender moves, those goalkeeper moves might not necessarily be top of the agenda right now. We might want to start prioritizing those assets that have maybe higher ceilings and maybe higher risk as well for some managers. But we're going to come on to some of those players later on in this live stream. Rio, I see you're saying that about, is it worth a -4 to replace Harry Kane for Firmino or Nunes? So it's worth mentioning in regards to Nunes right now, the press conference hasn't revealed too much from Klopp, but it has said that he is an injury risk going into this game week. Now, it's worth mentioning that it is a lunchtime kickoff, the Liverpool game, so we may potentially get some sort of team news before the Game Week 13 deadline. So I would firstly wait until you make any sort of move on a Liverpool forward if you're going down that route. I prefer Darwin Núñez. I'm really, really bullish on him. But again, if there is no clarity that he is going to be available for Game Week 13, then maybe you go for Firmino as a 1 week punt and then move to Nunes. But it feels like you're going hokey-cokey on Liverpool forwards, which doesn't really feel the best use of your transfers. And you're saying about starting 3 of Justin, Ward or Trippier. On that one there, I don't know if you mean Ward at Palace, but I think the answer to that one is Trippier. And we're going to cover that one in a minute when I look at my personal team, as I am a Trippier owner myself. Now, guys, before we get into my current transfer plans going into Game Week 13, just a little bit of kind of general review of the transfers going into Game Week 13. Now, remember, price changes are always massive around this time of the year, and it is really the best time, if you haven't already, to download the Fantasy Football Fix app for free from the App Store. Get your team imported onto there for free, but importantly, you can check out our price change predictor. Now, I'm just going to cover off some of the kind of baseline players that might be rising and falling in price tonight, just so you have a heads up, as I know that some of you might be priced out. So players that are potentially rising in price tonight are going to include Haaland, Martinelli, Saliba, Cancelo, Joe Gomez of Liverpool. I think that one's quite a popular one right now as we speak. Ivan Toney at Brentford, Phil Foden at Man City potentially going up again. That would be very, very controversial if that one does happen, but he is really, really popular in the transfers in department. Zaha as well, potentially rising, but that one is going to require quite a lot of transfers throughout the rest of this evening. Notable players that might be falling in price is going to include Aubameyang, Sterling, Mendy, Caballero if anybody has him, and just worthwhile because I know a lot of managers right now are considering Trossard is a player that is likely to fall in price tonight. So if you are on the market for a player and Trossard is the man that you are selling, I would potentially recommend you making that move tonight just to not lose value on that player. Now remember, when a player does fall in price, you need to see whether that does affect your sale price. That will depend on what price you bought Trossard at. So make sure you just check that one out. But if you want to avoid heartache in terms of price fall, maybe just make that Trossard move tonight. So that's going to cover off the kind of general kind of price changes, little bits like that. Let's get into my current team going into game week 13. This will probably answer a few of your questions as well, but I will keep dipping into the chat as always to answer any of those. And again, if you haven't liked the stream already, that'll be massively appreciated as always. Okay, let's go. Okay, guys, so here's how my team is looking right now going into game week 13. Now, I've told a little bit of a fib there because I'm saying how my team is looking right now, but this is actually what I want my team to look like. So my team is this. However, I still own Trossard. It is worth noting. I didn't make the move last night. I wanted to get a bit more information on the Saka incident, obviously going off a little bit earlier in the Europa League game. But what I've seen from Arteta, although Saka hasn't been confirmed absolutely, fully fine, it does seem like he is going to be okay. But hopefully we get a bit more concrete evidence, maybe coming out the cracks later on today. But my current transfer plan is to sell Trossard with the money available in the bank and bring in Saka. The fixtures over the next two are fantastic for Saka. Southampton away and Nottingham Forest at home. They don't get much better than that, really. In particular, with Southampton having defensive issues, in particular Walker-Peters, that is going to impact them from a defensive perspective. And I do anticipate Arsenal, even though they played midweek, to continue the form that they're on right now. And I really do think that the Arsenal midfield double up in Martinelli and Saka is the best route to go for if you want to get some ownership in the Arsenal attack. A few of you are looking about maybe going for Gabriel Jesus, and I still think that Gabriel Jesus is a good option, but you need to remember that he is one yellow card away from a suspension. So if we do get to that territory, you are going to be treading on eggshells a little bit between now and the World Cup if you do plan on bringing in Gabriel Jesus. So my kind of standpoint right now, Gabriel Jesus, if you have him, you absolutely hold on to him. If you're looking to buy him, you just need to be aware that that could happen. And you only got yourself to blame if you have heard this advice and it does happen. I just wouldn't really risk bringing in a player that I could have him miss out the following game week for a needless yellow card like Gabriel Jesus might give away in the game against Southampton. But this is how I would want my team to look, and I will likely pull the trigger tonight. Trossard to Saka, as I said, because it is likely that Trossard is going to fall in price tonight. So, a few of the deliberations I had in the team right now. Gaita versus Ward. Who would have thought bloody Ward got a clean sheet once again, a 9-point haul, 3 bonus points in game week 12, and that's been absolutely killer for the team last game week, seeing that on the bench. But it is what it is. This is sometimes the situation when we have a team with 2 playing goalkeepers. And I think the debate right now is going to be very much a case of a lot of managers in a similar boat. You either have Gaita and Ward, or you have a combination of maybe Pope and Ward. Now, both fixtures for me are low-scoring teams. Everton away, I don't anticipate Everton to be necessarily high-scoring. And the same is going to apply for Wolves away. I don't necessarily think Wolves are going to be the highest-scoring team. So I think both goalkeepers are up for debate this game week. I'm personally, as we speak, vying for the Gaita pick. I just back Palace's defence a little bit more than Leicester's, even though they did keep that clean sheet in game week 12. I'm currently going for Gaita. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. Ward is definitely going to troll me again this game week. I can foresee it for sure. Now, the defence. Again, a lot of people ask about Trippier's situation right now. And the way I'm viewing it is you just cannot bench Trippier. He has been an absolute bonus point magnet so far this season. And when Newcastle are in and amongst it, Trippier in the bonus is in. I'm trying to get my words out here. Basically, if Trippier and Newcastle don't deliver from an attacking perspective, his baseline for bonus points is so good that he just always eats up bonus points against those attackers of the Newcastle team. So for me, Trippier, even though they're against a Spurs team, is in the team for me. Ahead of Guy, ahead of Dunk, of course, against Man City. And what I do like as well is what I'm seeing from Newcastle from a defensive perspective. I'm seeing good things. And although I do anticipate Spurs probably likely are going to score in this game, I think there's enough ownership in the game right now, Newcastle defensive-wise, and also enough, from the eye test, seeing what Newcastle are doing is so good. I think you have to go for Trippier. I just think it is a no-brainer. Cancelo and Trent pick themselves for my team. Midfield pick for themselves once again. And the front line, Haaland with the captaincy. Now, I went for Mo Salah in that week where Haaland got a hat-trick against Man United and 2 assists. Never again. I will never get myself in that situation this season where I'm exposed as I was. Rank absolutely decimated, and I'm still clawing back from that game week, that dreaded day. And I think with a week off for Man City, the home form that they have, the amount of goals that they score at home, I just think Haaland captaincy is an absolute no-brainer. We could see Mo Salah operating centrally if Darwin Núñez is ruled out. It is worth mentioning, but I think it's a lot of ifs and buts about Liverpool right now. I know Man City lost in the game against Liverpool, but Haaland still had chances, and I anticipate him to still have plenty of chances against this Brighton team. So for me, the captaincy is a no-brainer this game week. Solanke, I'm not bullish on, but he comes into the team just based on principle right now. Guaranteed minutes and non-penalties. And Mitrovic ticking over so nicely right now. He is obviously in your starting 11 if you do own him. So 61 predicted points for the team. And as I mentioned, Trossard to Saka likely to be removed this game week. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. What are your thoughts on the team? Just to give you an update, my overall rank right now is 261,813. Now, considering 2 weeks ago, I was about 600k, I'm more than happy with my rank right now. And it'd be interesting to know what your thoughts are in the comments, guys. So, last season, I finished 270th in the world, by far my best ever rank. Season before that, I finished 8k. So I've been in a good run of form right now in FPL over the past few seasons. And this is the first season where I've been, in the few 100,000 ranks, which obviously is not a problem at all. And I'm starting to enjoy the game more. I didn't enjoy myself being in these high lofty ranks of top 1k, top 500, because it was just stress. Being in this position right now with only 12 game weeks gone, I view it as a fantastic opportunity to enjoy the game and the thrill of the chase. And I found myself kind of enjoying FPL a lot more, being in a position I am right now than being in the top 20k, for example. I feel like it's a lot more of a game and a lot more of an enjoyable factor that I've really come across this season. So let me know what your thoughts are, guys. Obviously, we want to finish the season as best as possible, but being only 12 game weeks in, this is just kind of like a message to all of you that do not kind of write off your season. Don't kind of think to yourself, oh, stuff this, I hate FPL. It is part and parcel of the game sometimes. And you've got to enjoy the moments where, you're kind of struggling and think to yourself, how can I rectify the bad start that I had in it, and enjoy the process rather than kind of stressing about the past. So I'm enjoying it right now being at this rank, and obviously I'm hoping to progress and get into that top 100k maybe before the World Cup. That'd be a fantastic position to be in. So I rambled on enough, guys. Let's get into a few questions right now, and then we can dip into the next section, which is going to be Foden versus Saka. So I can see a question there saying about Foden or Saka. Foden or Salah? Okay, I thought it said Foden or Saka. Foden or Mo Salah is a very, very difficult one to answer because of the price point of both players. I think, based on value, Foden is the answer. 3 of his next 4 fixtures at home, and Man City at home, we know, are absolute machines, and Foden himself is in fantastic form in home games. So I think Foden is the route, because right now with Mo Salah, I think he is a great FPL option, but we just don't know what kind of Mo Salah or Liverpool we're getting right now. We're going to touch on Mo Salah versus Darwin a little bit later, because I think there is a little bit of an issue once both of those play with one another. And we saw it in the last game week where Salah just operated more on the right flank, and it really wasn't that good viewing. So I think right now Salah is a great option, but in terms of FPL value, Foden is the pick. Mads, hope you're doing well. Tuning in from Norway, that is awesome. Is it worth taking a -4 to upgrade Dyer to Robertson/Trent or Solanke to Tony, Bobby or Skamaka? Already done Trossard to Foden. Okay, so is it worthwhile doing a -4 for that? So do I think Dyer to Robertson or Trent could be worthwhile this game week in isolation? Yes, I do. I think there is worthwhile there. Solanke to Tony or Bobby Firmino. I wouldn't really be going for Bobby Firmino. I think that could be a transfer waiting to happen later down the line. And Skamaka, I'm not too bullish on right now, in particular for a -4. So I probably would go for the defender move because I think that they have obviously the attacking output as well as the clean sheet potential there. I can't really foresee huge returns in one game week for Solanke to Tony, although I think Tony over the next 4 is a good option. Greg, binned off my bench in wildcard, have Bueno, Neco and Archer. Good idea. Yeah, I think there is an argument right now to just go for a really focused kind of insight. Going for a focus on your starting 11, a decent first sub, and then just sacking off benches 2 and 3. We're getting into a position right now where it's only 4 game weeks. So I would like to think rotation isn't necessarily going to be at its peak. I think you could definitely field an 11 with a good first sub that could just pop into your team and really focus your money on those premium players at premium teams. So no, I don't mind that at all as a strategy. And again, guys, if you can like the stream, that'll be much appreciated. Yo, chat, do you think it should be Firmino to Kane and Zaha to Salah for a 4-point hit or Zaha straight to Bruno? Wow, a lot to read into that. So firstly, is that Bruno Fernandes or was that Bruno Guimaraes? Firmino to Kane doesn't feel right with a game against Nottingham Forest. And Zaha to Salah just doesn't feel right either. So I probably would stick with what you got, to be honest with you. And Zaha straight to Bruno, no, I wouldn't be doing that move either myself. Yacino, hope you're doing well. FPL Penguin, hope you're doing well. Dream Stealer, good to have you back. Nacho, good to be back. Okay, we got a lot of chat here, which is good to see. Is Darwin going to play wildcard in this week and swap Solanke plus Tony out for Darwin plus a cheap striker? Okay, so Darwin situation, absolutely no concrete evidence right now that he is available for this game week, which is of course a little bit difficult when you are wildcarding because you want to have that Nottingham Forest fixture. There's no doubts about it right now. So I like the Darwin plus cheap striker alongside Haaland if we do get confirmation that he is available for that Liverpool, for that Nottingham Forest game. Solanke plus Tony, I still do like. Could you get Solanke to Mitrovic? If it is Mitrovic plus Tony, I would go for that route because I think Tony is still a fantastic option. His XG against Chelsea was great. He looked really, really good. So I think right now, because I don't know the situation on Darwin, I probably would go for Mitrovic plus Tony if you can afford it over Darwin plus a cheap striker. And people saying about Saka, is he a doubt? Yes, there is a slight doubt about Saka, but I think what I've seen by Arteta, it does seem like he just come off precautionary. I would be almost certain that if he can get him out, he will do, Arteta. I think Saka is absolutely going to be featured in this game if he is available to play. I don't think Arteta thinks to himself, oh, it's a game to kind of like just make sure he ticks over nicely. No, I think he gets chucked in even if he is 90%. Okay, guys, so a lot of you are asking about Foden versus Saka. So let's get into that right now. And let's cover off some thoughts on why I think it is a tougher decision than a lot of managers are talking about right now. Okay, guys. So the big one. The one that everybody has been talking about right now. Phil Foden versus Saka. The two golden boys in both fantasy football and just in the Premier League right now. It is so good to see Foden delivering as an FPL option because he has been so frustrating for so many years now. The nearly man, we know the potential's there. There's no doubting about it, but it's just that output hasn't really been there. But what we're seeing right now is a difference in Phil Foden, which has been not there the past few seasons. The introduction to Haaland has benefited Foden. Because of the emphasis on him being the focal point, we've been able to see Foden operate almost as a second forward and a foil to Haaland, which has been fantastic. And you'll see that as well in those home games for Phil Foden in particular. So on screen here, you can see the underlying stats for both players per 90 minutes. It is worth noting across the course of the season so far. So expected FPL points, 5.66 per 90 for Foden, 5.28 for Saka. Expected goals, 0.4 for Foden, 0.38 for Saka. And shots, 2.56 per 90 for Saka, 2.39 for Foden. So look, first and foremost, it's worth noting, incredibly close between the two. And again, it is worth noting as well, Foden did go up in price last night to 8.4 million. So please excuse the 8.3 at the bottom of the screen there. Saka as well, I don't think went up in price there. I think I got a little bit ahead of myself and anticipated him to rise in price. So there is a difference in price between the two. It is worth noting. Now, is the price difference worthwhile paying for Phil Foden? So next 4 predicted points we can see there goes in Saka's favour. 20.6 predicted points compared to Phil Foden's 19.7. And looking at just game week 13 in isolation, Saka is predicted to score more points than Phil Foden. 5.1 to Phil Foden's 4.2. So look, looking at the face of it right now, you could literally flip a coin between the two players and you'd be happy with either one. I honestly think that we're in a situation like that right now because we're selecting a player like Phil Foden who is playing in one of the best, obviously the best attacking team in the league. So you want to get some ownership in that. But with Saka as well, we're also looking at a player that is playing in a team that accumulates such big XG and so many good chances that you're getting ownership in players that are just naturally going to be in and amongst the goals across the course of the season. When we look at other midfielders, now let's talk about someone like Bowen, for example. Bowen doesn't necessarily play in a team that accumulates multiple XG expected goals in games, big chances. So you're kind of buying more of a talisman player rather than getting an investment in a team that are accumulating massive chances. And when we go for someone like Saka or Foden, I just think it's only a matter of time until they do get in and amongst the goals. So you're just buying inevitability rather than kind of assumption that they're going to do well. Now, Foden versus Saka is such a tough one because you won't be able to see this on screen, but the heat maps between the two, it's literally like Foden's heat map has just been flipped and they're exactly the same. Honestly, Foden's touch heat map is very much on that kind of left flank and getting touches in and amongst the box on the left side. Few touches on the right just because he has the license to that Man City team to drift sometimes, and also he rotates sometimes on the right of the front three. Saka, on the other hand, hogging the right touchline, taking corners similar to what Foden does and getting plenty of touches in and around the box on the right flank. So touch heat map is literally identical. It is just at reverse. It's just flipped on either side of the pitch depending on what side of the front three they play in. Now, just diving into a few other sort of like underlying stats here. Shots in the box, 20 for Saka so far this season, 18 for Phil Foden. Shots on target, 12 for Foden, 9 for Saka. So look, there's no real massive difference between the underlying stats right now for both of these players. So we really aren't looking at one player absolutely dominating the other. Now, the thing that I think makes me think there is a difference between the two players is the upcoming fixtures for them. So just to read off the fixtures for Man City coming up: Brighton at home, Leicester away, Fulham at home, and Brentford at home. Arsenal, on the other hand, Southampton away, Nottingham Forest at home, Chelsea away, and Wolves away. Now, I read Foden's fixtures there, and 3 of those next 4 are at home. And this is why I'm starting to think that Phil Foden is the absolute pick if you are going between Foden versus Saka. Phil Foden in 5 home games has scored 5 goals, 14 shots, 2.92 XG, and an expected FPL points of 30.91, which is absolutely ridiculous. So it's the most goals of any midfielder so far this season at any price point. Expected FPL points I think is in the top 6, so looking really, really solid there. And Man City as a team at home are just absolute monsters. Goals scored, 24 goals in 5 games and an XG of 12.65. So look, the XG, obviously they are overperforming quite considerably, but you cannot look past those actual goals scored at home. It is absolutely ridiculous. And when I read out the fixtures that they have, Brentford, Fulham and Brighton, I foresee goals there in these fixtures. And I want ownership in that Man City attack. And it doesn't feel like Haaland is enough for it. So that's why I do feel like Foden is the go-to midfielder if you can afford it. Because, of course, there is a difference in the price between the two there. Now, as I mentioned in terms of Saka, I just want to touch on him as a player. I said that he's playing away from home in 3 of his next 4 is worth noting. So they haven't got the home advantage, which could play a factor for sure. Just reading out Saka's form away from home, because I think it is worthwhile noting it. So 2 goals in 5 games, an XG of 0.93, and an expected FPL points of 19.64. And he's actually scored 34 points. So in terms of points, he has been one of the best performing midfielders away from home. So Saka playing away from home isn't necessarily a bad thing. It does look like it does suit him for both Arsenal and him as a player. So I don't be thinking, oh God, Saka's away from home, it is a terrible thing. I don't think it is that case at all. I just think that Man City at home are absolute monsters. And Foden posting the underlying stats that he does at home, it's worth noting his home form against away is quite massive. So I am seeing definitely a preference to playing at home. Again, read into that what you will. But I just think City at home are a joke. Having ownership in Foden feels essential over these next 4 if you can get there. And I would pick Phil Foden over Saka. Obviously, I would go for Saka this game week, but that's only because I don't have the money available to afford Foden. Would I do a -4 to sacrifice a player in my team to then upgrade a midfielder to Foden? No. I would then go for Saka as the free transfer rather than a -4 to Phil Foden. Now, of course, Foden could pay that back in 1 game week in isolation, but I'm seeing good enough numbers from Saka for the next 4 fixtures to think that you don't need to take a points hit, and it's very much team dependent right now how your game state is with your team. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. Are you team Foden? Are you team Saka? I am team Foden, but controversially, because I can't afford him, I'm going for Saka. But I just wanted to highlight there that although I think Foden is the better choice because of the home games being fantastic, I don't think there's enough of a difference in the stats and enough in the difference of Saka's away form to suggest you doing a -4 or a -8 to rip your teams to avoid Saka to go for Foden. Hope that makes sense. In an ideal world, you go in for both of these players. If you're on about you can get both, but you have to target one this game week, I still will go for Phil Foden and just get him in early doors. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. What is your thoughts on Foden versus Saka? I'll be very, very interested to know. Let's catch up with some of the chat here. Francis, Salah to Bruno since there's no Ronaldo and Bruno looks to be on penalties. Interesting shout, Francis. Yes, I think Bruno could be a consideration right now, but I just cannot really promote it right now because of the mid-price midfielders that are available in the game right now. Saka, Foden, Bowen, excellent options. Martinelli, and I also think we have to remember as well, Rashford. Rashford needs to be in the consideration because at the end of the day, Rashford is just a cheap alternative to Bruno Fernandes. Now, if we are looking at game week 12 in isolation, as you referenced there, just to compare the stats between both Fernandes and Rashford: 6 shots for Fernandes, 4 for Rashford, and expected goals for Rashford of 0.81, expected goals for Fernandes 0.22. But the expected FPL points was in Fernandes' favour because of his high expected assists at 0.58. So although I think Fernandes could be a brilliant differential between now and the end of the season, I think you just go for Rashford. His underlying stats are still decent. He's 3 million cheaper than Fernandes, and it means that then you might have the opportunity to upgrade another midfielder to a Foden or Saka rather than being stuck with Bruno Fernandes and maybe like an Andreas Pereira. You could maybe upgrade him into a Foden or Saka. So I think that's a no-brainer for you there. It's worth noting as well, Man United's fixtures coming up aren't necessarily the best from an attacking perspective. Chelsea, And I am a Chelsea fan, it's worth noting. I think they beat Chelsea. I really do, which is terrible to say. West Ham don't give up too many chances, so that'd be a tricky game. Villa, maybe a new manager or just a caretaker bounce. We have seen it in the past. Could be tricky. Fulham away before the World Cup. Craven Cottage, tough place to go. So again, not that bullish on Man United assets, and I would go for Rashford over Bruno Fernandes. Mings to White / Gabriel from -4. I just can't really get behind that right now. Yes, Mings is a transfer waiting to happen, but my first advice would be, how is the rest of your squad? Can you just bench Mings potentially and wait until the following game week? If your team is in crisis and you require that position to be available in your team, then Mings to White or Gabriel, yeah, I don't mind it because the fixtures are good for Arsenal, but you can tell in my voice I'm not that excited by that transfer because remember, we only have 4 game weeks until we hit the World Cup and unlimited transfers, and I feel that's quite a big factor there to remember. Yes, Darwin Núñez is a XG monster, and that is so true. And we're going to touch on that in a minute when we do look at the wildcard team ahead of game week 13 if I was to wildcard. Colm's saying, I'm going for Firmino if Núñez is out, as his points have mainly come when Núñez is not in the team. Yeah, that's a fair shout. What I would advise is I wouldn't do Darwin to Firmino as a transfer, because I think it's just very much jumping onto one, and then once Darwin's available, you're just going to want to go back to Darwin because he's an absolute machine when he does play for Liverpool. Salah plus 4.3 striker or Darwin plus Bowen. Again, very difficult for me to answer right now because of the injury status on Darwin. Again, we don't know whether he is available or not, so I don't want to sit here and necessarily advise you to say go for Darwin plus Bowen. What I would say is if Darwin's available, I would go for Darwin plus Bowen if that was if you were happy to take the risk on the injury status of Darwin. And Rio saying, thanks Nacho, I have both Pope and Trippier, and I think Newcastle will not get a clean sheet. Will I start Andreas ahead of Almiron? Yeah, so naturally, if you're not bullish on the Newcastle attack this game week, then Andreas is more than a fine player to bring in. Are we expecting big returns from Andreas Pereira? Absolutely not. So, look, I think Almiron versus Spurs or Andreas Pereira versus Leeds, I believe. Andreas Pereira versus Leeds. Look, it is a flip of a coin for me, really. I think both are going to have low-scoring game weeks this week. And Cole's made a very good point. Tony, Jesus, Saliba and Dalot all on 4 yellow cards. Great information there, worth noting. Thank you for that. Yeah, and Yassine saying about Foden being more explosive than Saka. Yeah, I would agree with that. And I also just think getting both of them is just kind of the route to go for right now. As I said, if you have the luxury of 2 free transfers. And again, guys, if you are enjoying it, please do drop a like. It'll be much appreciated. We're going to hit 50 on this live stream, fingers crossed. It'll be massive achievement if we can get that. Arjun saying, thoughts on replacing Kane with Darwin? Feel bad that I don't have any Liverpool players. Knee-jerk maybe. And Arjun, that's exactly the thing you need to consider is the injury status of Darwin. If we don't get any clarification that he is available, I probably would just stick with Harry Kane. He's still ticking over nicely. Spurs were shocking against Man United, but Kane is still a decent asset, it is worth noting. And I'll probably just stick with Kane unless we get clarity that Darwin Núñez is available. And again, guys, if you are in and amongst the Twitter community, then I would advise holding off your transfers until as late as possible to the deadline. With Liverpool being the lunchtime kickoff, there is a chance that we might get some sort of information about the team. That could be really critical if you are deciding about bringing in Darwin Núñez or not. And in particular, if you are wildcarded, I would wait right up until that deadline to confirm your team, just so that you can maybe play around with a Darwin Núñez draft and maybe just have a second draft available as well. So if Darwin Núñez wasn't available, then you can jump onto that other draft that you were having as a backup. So we're going to move away from the Foden versus Saka slide here, guys. I hope that provided some value. Just to conclude, both unbelievable assets. Saka away from home is posting good underlying stats, so don't be put off by the away fixtures for Saka. But because 3 of the next 4 are at home for Phil Foden, Man City are monsters at home. Foden is unbelievable at home based on his underlying stats so far. Foden would be the pick for me. I think you're just going to want him, and you can just have him between now and the World Cup. And what I love about Phil Foden as well is he's just a cheap KDB. I wouldn't be going KDB over Foden. I think you can save yourself 4 million, go for Foden and invest the rest of those funds elsewhere in the rest of your squad. So Foden over Saka. Would I do a -4 to rip up my team to get Foden in? Probably not if you can afford Saka. Hope that makes sense. Right, let's get into a controversial wildcard team that I have got here that may ruffle a few feathers, worth noting. Okay, so let me just put a caveat on this team. I built this team before knowing that Darwin Núñez was potentially out of the Nottingham Forest game. So take this with a pinch of salt when we are looking at our wildcard team. I'm just going to run through it. Going to talk about some variations that could be considered if Darwin Núñez is out, and just other alternatives that you need to consider between now and the World Cup if you are wildcarding. And a few players I kind of deem essential if you are wildcarding. Yeah, let's go through those first. Let me cover off the players that I think if you are wildcarding, it absolutely would just have in your team. So, Cancelo, you can't go without Cancelo. So Cancelo is locked into your wildcard team no matter what. I don't care what anyone says, Cancelo is in. Trent and Trippier, I think, are debates, but I would put Trippier almost in the essential. Not absolute essential, but I just think Trippier ticking over so nicely. The Newcastle is an absolute bonus point in that Newcastle, bonus point magnet in that Newcastle team. And I'm not too scared of the fixtures. I don't anticipate much from game week 13. Villa at home is good. Southampton away is good. And Chelsea at home as well, I actually think it's okay. Chelsea only clocking about 0.7 XG against Brentford. Newcastle are a better team than Brentford. That's a tough place to go, St James's Park. Wouldn't be surprised if Graham Potter looks at that fixture and thinks, let's just get out of here with a draw. So, not saying Chelsea are going to play defensively or anything, but I'm just saying I think Newcastle, just for the World Cup, at home, fans are going to be mad. I don't think that's a bad fixture at all, even though Chelsea obviously are a top 4 team. I'm not too put off by that. So Trippier, I do think, is a fantastic pick. When we are building our wildcard teams, we just need to be cautious as well, just a little bit, about rank protection. And there is massive ownership in the Newcastle defence. So if you go against the Newcastle defence, in particular Trippier, and he just continues to tick over like he does, nice and slowly with these 7, 8, 9 pointers, you could just see that rank start to get dented a little bit. So remember, when we're building wildcard teams, and there's a lot of people don't consider this, it's all about the combinations rather than crazy wild differentials. So, for example, Trippier might feel like quite a defensive pick in your team. But you can see here with the midfield that I've selected, although Martinelli's popular, Foden's popular, Saka feels popular, Bowen as well, owning all 4 as a combination is your differential. So you don't have to go crazy and go, I'm going to buy Almiron at Newcastle, I'm going to buy this guy, I'm going to buy that guy. It's having the combination of the players as your differential rather than owning a differential. I hope that makes sense. It is. It has some logic behind it. I'm not just chatting out my ass. So I hope that makes sense there. So I've digressed. Essentials in your midfield on a wildcard. Saka, essential. Foden, essential. Martinelli, I would say, is, if you've accumulated value in him and you've owned him from game week 1, then I think you carry him through until at least game week 15. The front line. Haaland, obviously, an absolute no-brainer. Ward in goal, I think you just stick with it. He's playing week in, week out for Leicester. And that's going to be it for the essentials. So, goalkeeper department. There's some good options available right now. I think you spend 4.5 million on a goalkeeper. Yes, you could go for Alisson. He's been a monster recently. Yes, you could go for Fabianski at West Ham. I think that one's flying under the radar a little bit. But I'm going to go Pickford. The fixtures between now and the World Cup are good. Everton defensively have been pretty good, I would say. Palace at home, Fulham away, Leicester at home, Bournemouth away. I like those fixtures from a defensive perspective. And Pickford accumulates save points, which is always a good thing to see. So, other considerations that you need to have for your team. Kepa, although the Chelsea fixtures are tough, is just in like God mode right now. I don't know what's happened, but Kepa is just unbelievable. I think he's prevented about 3.5 goals, which is a joke. So he is in unbelievable form right now. Now, Man United at home, Brighton away, Arsenal at home, Newcastle away. They're not good fixtures at all. But all I'm saying is, if you want ownership in a Chelsea defence, then I like Kepa. But based on fixtures alone, obviously you're not going to be too interested in him. So Pickford, Fabianski or Kepa, I like that route in terms of the goalkeeper department. Gaita as well, if you want to go down there. Now, Trent. I know a lot of managers right now are a little bit dubious on Trent. I think this is a good opportunity to have one of those high reward, high risk players. I think Trent plays most of the games. Liverpool defensively, I am not sold on still. I feel like Liverpool rode their luck against West Ham massively. Take away that penalty, there were still chances for West Ham in that game. And I don't think Liverpool, just because they beat Man City, are suddenly back to their old ways. I still think Klopp is trying to figure out this Liverpool team right now. So Trent, I do think, just offers that high ceiling that I would want in a wildcard team. So he's in the team. Bowen. A lot of people sleeping on Bowen, I think. West Ham fixtures are really good. Bournemouth at home, Man United away, Palace at home and Leicester at home. Talking about players that operate well at home, Bowen comes under that category right now so far this season. As a player, goals at home, Bowen has scored. Let me just get this up for you. Well, I thought he's done well. It's his XG, sorry. 2.52 XG at home in 5 games is really, really good reading, actually. Like when we compare that to other players, Foden 2.92 XG and Bowen's only about 0.4 off from that. So we're seeing really good numbers from Bowen at home. 3 of the next 4 at home. I'm liking good things from Bowen. So I think Bowen's a nice differential because I think he will get sold by a lot of managers because they want to bring in the Sakas and the Fodens. So Bowen I like as an option. Frontline. Darwin Núñez. The man, the myth, legend who is just causing headaches across the board right now. The bloke's a joke. I'm just going to put it out there. Darwin Núñez is just a game breaker. Breaking our teams, breaking Mo Salah, breaking everything. If anyone's watching from an eye test perspective, he's a sort of guy that doesn't know what he's doing, so it makes other players not know what he's doing. He's just absolutely all action. He posted the highest top speed of any player ever in the Premier League. Like, who would have thought that? Absolute machine. And he's just accumulating chances week in, week out in the games that he is featuring in. So, looking at his stats per 90 minutes, this is why I'm so bullish on him. Per 90 minutes, XG of 0.94, which is exactly the same as Haaland. Now, yes, he has played about 500 minutes less than Haaland, so we've got a lot larger sample size from Haaland to come to some conclusion about. But 0.94 XG per 90 is just ridiculous. He's posted 0.28 expected assists, which is exactly the same as Haaland. And expected FPL points per 90 is 7.24. Now, he's only delivering 5.79 points per 90, so he's underperforming his expected FPL points. So literally, we are looking at Haaland 2.0. We're just looking at a crapper Haaland, but the underlying stats are right there with Haaland. Now, the problem right now with Darwin Núñez is he's breaking Mo Salah. I've looked at some of the stats here for Mo Salah, and in particular his touch heat map, when Núñez and him are on the field together, and Salah is just out on the flank. It is terrible reading for Salah owners when Núñez is in the team, because Núñez, when he gets the ball, is just greedy. We've seen it time in, time out about him not passing the ball to Salah, and I think it's just a case of him being greedy. And it's great for FPL managers, and that's why you want a piece of that pie as a Darwin Núñez owner. And that's why I do feel like if he is pass fit for this Nottingham Forest game, if we're going to get game time from Darwin Núñez, I feel like going Darwin Núñez over Salah could be a nice differential. His heat map's a joke. He literally is just in the box all the time, getting chances. Salah, like I said, is pushed out to the flank. So I really do think if we're going to see a team of Darwin Núñez and Salah together, Darwin Núñez would be the route to go for. He's 4 million cheaper, which means that you can pump your money into that midfield and get ownership elsewhere. Now, Tony's in there as well, 1 yellow card away from a suspension, which I forgot about, so it is worth noting. But if we get a situation that Darwin Núñez is ruled out, then yes, we might have to change the team. Right, my recommendation would then probably be down to Mitrovic, invest the funds elsewhere into that midfield. Maybe get yourself all the way up to Salah if you do replace him Bowen. But I like this team. Let me know your thoughts in the chat, guys. I've rambled on for quite a while about this. I need to get into the comment section to answer some of your questions. Going to leave this on screen for you. 59 predicted points. Captaincy on Haaland, of course. Let's get into some of your questions, guys, as I have rambled on. Liverpool defender for a -4. That's going to be about all who you are selling, Hayden. It's going to be all about who you are selling. One Beanie Boy, is it worth -4 for Trossard and Barnes to Saka and Foden? Yes. Yes, I like those moves. Trossard over the next 2 is tough fixtures. Barnes, I actually like as a differential, but look, for a -4, what you're getting there is 2 players that you're going to own between now and the World Cup. Don't view this as a -4 and look at your score in game week 13 in isolation. Judge it between now and the World Cup. If you can make that move, because you're looking to bring in both, I do like it for a -4. Jolene saying, I have Foden, not sure Saka will play a full game as he has a knock. Yep, I do agree that there is a risk element with Saka right now because of that slight knock. Again, read into that what you will. Who do you think is on penalties at United? That is a really good question. Before Ronaldo, it was Bruno Fernandes. We don't really have any information right now. So based on past historical data, I'm going to say Bruno Fernandes. But please don't read that as like gospel. Martinelli, Saka, Foden, Salah, Eze, bench. What do you think about it? I like the midfield. Love the midfield. Eze, a bit of a differential. I'd prefer Saha, but I don't mind Eze. Darwin not ruled out yet. Yeah, that is true. Combination of Saka and Robertson, or Salah and Gabriel, or even Saka and Gabriel. Have Foden and Martinelli already. I like the combination of going for... I like the Saka and Robertson combination. I think Robertson does play the majority now. But look, if you're bullish on Salah, if you think he's going to play centrally, it's worth noting, if Darwin gets ruled out, we can only see Salah playing down the middle alongside Firmino if he's going for this kind of like weird formation that he is operating. Harvey Elliott will probably go on the right flank. So Darwin Núñez being out is brilliant reading for Salah owners. Darwin Núñez being available, I think hinders Salah. That's the way I'm viewing it right now. Robertson or Tsimikas starting. Because Tsimikas started, I have to anticipate that Robertson will start, but there's no absolute concrete evidence there. Doherty Robertson, I don't have money for TAA. Again, I prefer Trent. I think he's a bonus point magnet. But if you can get to Robertson, I don't mind it. But just remember, what I will say is, the reason I like Trent is because I don't think there are many alternatives to Klopp at right back, apart from James Milner. But I think the drop-off to James Milner, although he played fantastic against Man City, is quite a lot. I think Tsimikas can come in and do similar things to Robertson from an attacking perspective. So that's the only risk I would say about Robertson, is I think Klopp is more inclined to give minutes to Tsimikas rather than Milner to Trent. Okay, guys. Going to cover more questions, but I'm conscious that I haven't dipped into the projected points for game week 13 in isolation. So let me get that up. And before I do that, guys, we're on 44 likes. You know what I'm going to say, guys. Can you get us to 50 likes before the next slide? That'll be massively appreciated. So we got about just under 90 in here. If you are watching right now, it's brought a bit of value to you. Can you get us to 50 likes? It will make my weekend if you can do that, guys. It'll be much appreciated if you can do that. So let's get into the next section, guys, which is going to be predicted points going into game week 13. And as always, guys, let me know what your thoughts are on this wildcard team. It'd be awesome to know what your thoughts are. Right then, predicted points going into game week 13. Usual suspects, as usual, the likes of Cancelo in the defence. Guys, thank you so much for getting us to 50 likes. That is massively appreciated. You guys are the best. It is worth noting. Right, predicted points. You can kind of see them on screen, guys, so I'm not going to ramble through each and every player because it's kind of just repeating what is on there for you to read. Few things to note. Alisson, again, a monster, coming up really good in the underlying stats for this game week. Would I go to Alisson as my goalkeeper on a wildcard? No, because I think the fullbacks are back on the menu. If you have Alisson, you keep him, though. It is worth noting. Fabianski, I think, is a great, underrated wildcard goalkeeper. West Ham defensively posting really good numbers. So I like West Ham defensively, and I like Fabianski as an option. Pickford, I've touched on Pickford, I like him. Defenders, Gomez, if he stays at centre-back at 4.5 million, I think it's a really good value pick between now and the World Cup. You are just treading on eggshells a little bit. If we do get confirmation that Matip or Konate are available, then we could be a little bit kind of squeaky bum time on Gomez. But otherwise, if you can't afford the Van Dijks, the Robertsons, the Trents, go Gomez, and then you can always bench him eventually if we get a situation where he is benched in the Liverpool team. Last few bits on the screen, guys. Salah. You can see that so close between Salah and Haaland. However, live teams ownership for Haaland is about 93%. I know the FPL site says about 84%, but that is based on the entire game. There are a lot of dead teams out there. Active teams, he's owned about 94%. So do you want to take that risk and go against him? Because honestly, guys, the captaincy numbers are going to be massive once again on Haaland. I don't think it is worthwhile. Haaland rested for the week, and Man City as a whole, wounded animals at home, which I've touched on. They are monsters at home. Yes, Brighton defensively are decent as a team. I still think they're good under the new manager. I just think Man City are a different beast, and I think Haaland is the captaincy option to go for. He's a safer pick, and he's the best pick, so I just don't think you question it. You just go for it. Gabriel Jesus coming up really good. If you have him, you stick with him. I wouldn't be buying him because of the yellow card problem. Darwin Núñez, again, if that guy plays, brilliant reading for managers that own him. Not the best reading for Salah owners. So guys, going to leave that on screen as kind of like a holding page for the live stream for the back end of this stream. Going to cover off the last few questions, and then we're going to wrap it up there. So if you have any more thoughts, let me know. Rate my team, please. Pope, Iverson, Cancelo, Trippier, Perisic, Doherty. Williams, Bruno Guimaraes, Foden, Salah, Martinelli, Andreas, Haaland, Mitrovic, Tony. Any suggestions? One free transfer. Okay, so firstly, it's all about how much money have you got in the bank. I don't like the combination of Perisic and Doherty in your team. So I need to know how much money you have available in the team. Bruno Guimaraes, I'd probably hold. Foden, Salah, you hold. Martinez, you hold. The front three, you hold as well. So I think it's about the defenders. Could you move potentially a Perisic or Doherty to an Arsenal defender? I think that could be a wise move. Otherwise, you roll your free transfer and you look to bring in maybe an Arsenal midfielder in game week 14. Thoughts on Robertson? Yes, I do like Robertson. Again, I just think Klopp is more inclined to rotating with Tsimikas rather than Klopp rotating Trent with Milner. I think, as I said, Milner can rotate with Trent, but the drop-off is massive from an attacking perspective. I think Tsimikas can do the things that Robertson can do. Yeah, people are touching about what I said about Núñez earlier. He's just a crazy player. He's just a mad box of frogs that we don't know what we're getting with, but the numbers are fantastic. And what I love is that when he's on the field, everything funnels through him. Everything goes through him. And when you're looking for a fantasy option, that's what you want really at 8.8 million. Maddison for Saka. Now, Maddison is a really tricky one because for those managers that held on to him, you now come to a situation where it is kind of like, do you stick or twist? So, fixtures coming up for Leicester between now and the World Cup. Wolves away, Man City at home, Everton away, West Ham away. They're not good reading. And although I think Maddison still could tick over really, really nicely, I think if you have the opportunity to go to Saka, and importantly, if you can go to Foden, I would do it. Yes, I think Maddison could return well between now and the World Cup, but they're tricky fixtures. I think you just go for Saka and you just kind of move away from Maddison. A combination of Saka and Robertson, or Salah and Gabriel, or even, I've covered that one off already. Is Darwin starting against Forest? Unfortunately, we don't have that information right now. Need to free up funds for Saka. Should I keep Kepa? Should I have Kepa and Tony, or Pope and Solanke? Oof, really, really tricky. Newcastle's fixtures are mixed. Solanke's fixtures are okay. Oh, really, really tough. I probably would go for the Kepa and Tony move and just hope that Kepa remains an absolute monster. What I will say to you, though, is this. Tony on 4 yellow cards. So if you're looking to buy him, you really need to be cautious of that. Because then if he gets a yellow card, he misses the following game week. If you just want to go for safety, you go for the Pope and Solanke pick. I can go from Tony to Darwin with my free transfer, and I have Kane, Haaland, and Darwin. Thoughts chat can also take a 4-point hit and go Zaha. So I wouldn't be doing 4 points to do Zaha to Saka personally. And what I will say to you is Tony to Darwin with a free transfer just doesn't feel right. I would be holding Tony against a managerless Villa personally. Yes, Darwin is attractive, but we just don't know whether he's definitely available or not. What about getting both Salah and Darwin? Yeah, if you could afford it and you're bullish on it, I like it. But again, it is worth noting, it's the old Harry Potter saying, isn't it, of Harry Potter and Voldemort? The old one can live, both can't survive, one can live while the other dies, or whatever it is. I really don't foresee a situation right now where both Darwin and Salah thrive in a team. It's almost like one has to be sacrificed for the other. Which one's Voldemort, which one's Harry Potter, you decide. Thoughts on one premium Irish Maverick is saying Haaland and then having Zaha, Mount, Bowen, Saka and Foden. Yeah, I think there's definitely credit in it. I think there's definitely a viable move to go down that route. Mason Mount, tricky fixtures, it's worth noting. So I don't think Mount is as attractive as before, but he is the creative force in that Chelsea team right now. So I think he is the game time pick in that Chelsea attack. So I like the strategy there. Yeah, I don't mind it. Is Odegaard a good pick? I still think you go Martinelli or Saka. Is it worth doing Kane to Tony? No, I would not be doing Kane to Tony for this game week. I think at home, Kane is an okay option. Aaron's saying, I want to get Chilwell out, but I already took a hit for this week. Then I would hold Chilwell. I wouldn't be looking to sell him right now. I think with Cucurella starting in game week 12, I wouldn't anticipate Chilwell to play in game week 13, and I just wouldn't sell him for a hit. And look, you're selling Chilwell, who got rested in game week 12 for a player like Gomez, who at best is going to get a 6-pointer being a centre-back. I would just take the risk on Chilwell, in particular not sell him for a hit. Rate my team, please. Kepa, Ward, Cancelo, Trippier, Guy, Bueno, Dunk, Bowen, Foden, Salah, Martinelli, Andreas, Haaland, Mitrovic, Darwin. Yeah, I don't mind it. I think that's a really well-balanced team. Yeah, big fan of that team. Got a really strong front line as well, it's worth noting. Who do you think starts out of Pope and Ward? And also, who should you start out of, Andreas or Castagne? The call between Pope and Ward is really, really tough. Now, in terms of projected points for this game week for goalkeepers, we have Pope projected to score 3.5 and Ward projected to score 2.9, sorry. So based on our projected points, Pope is the route to go for. On a wildcard, midfielder Saka, Martinelli, Foden, Eze and Almiron. Thoughts? On a wildcard, a midfielder Saka, Martinelli, Foden, Eze and Almiron. I'm not too big on that. I feel like Eze and Almiron feels a little bit lightweight to go for a midfield like that. I love the Saka, Martinelli, Foden pick. I just don't like Eze and Almiron. I like one of those. I don't like both. Is it good to do Kane to Tony so I can get Foden in place of Trossard? I'm not big on selling Kane this game week for Tony. I don't mind it, but I just think longer term, if Tony gets a yellow, then you're back to square one again with him missing the following game week. So just be cautious of that if you are going to make that move. Rate my team, please. Ward, Castagne, Kilman, Cancelo, Salah, Martinelli, Foden, Eze, Mitrovic, Haaland, captain Tony. Yeah, like it. I think naturally you've got a few weaknesses there. Like the defense feels a bit thin, but I like the attack. Yeah, you see, no, I don't mind it at all. I think just again, if you are doing those moves that you mentioned, I'd be a little bit worried. Who to start this game week, Trippier or Cucurella? I would go for Trippier. You know he's definitely going to start. He's on all set pieces. Bonus point magnet. Newcastle defensively are really, really sound. I don't like what I'm seeing right now at Chelsea from a defensive perspective. Yes, I think the return of Thiago Silva is going to be big for them. But against a Man United team who, if they play that team, I think are going to cause Chelsea problems. In particular, that midfield area. Chelsea in the midfield are struggling right now to control games. And I think they are there to be run over a little bit. And I think with a combination of Kovacic, Jorginho in there, without Kante, I'm a little bit worried about the combination of Casemiro, Bruno Fernandes and Fred, or maybe even Eriksen in there. And I do think there are going to be chances for Man United in this game. So I would go for Trippier over Cucurella. Is Bernardo Silva good to transfer? No, I would not be going for Bernardo Silva. You go for Foden, you pay that extra. It is definitely going to be worth it. Yes, when when Man City accumulate these massive scores that they do at home, 4-0s to 5-0s, there is naturally going to be games where Bernardo Silva is in amongst the goals from an assist or a goal scoring perspective. But we're looking at players for the next 4 game weeks. And I'm almost certain that Foden outscores Bernardo Silva by quite a considerable amount over that period. Yeah, guys, I think we got some good stuff, but I think we are getting to the end of the live stream here. We go for about an hour. I really hope it's been paying off, this live stream. Again, if you are enjoying it, please do remember to drop a like on the live stream. It just shows us that you're enjoying the content. And as always, like, it's great to hear your feedback on the live stream as well. If there's anything we can change, different stats that we can incorporate, we're always, here to listen. So that's really good to know that you are liking the live stream so far. Aaron's saying, rate my team. Trippier, White, Cancelo, Foden, Saka, Almiron, Martinelli, Tony, Kane, Haaland with goalkeeper as Pope and Raya. Sorry, guys. Bloody hell. Look, I like the team. White, I like as a cheap option in that Arsenal team. Foden, Saka, Almiron, yeah, he's in good form, so you can stick with him. A lot of money invested in the front line. So my advice would be to this. Probably stick with the team you have. I really do like it. But if you need to make sacrifices, I would drop the money out of the front line, in particular Kane, and I would look to invest that elsewhere in the rest of the squad. But for this game week, I really do like it. Mount to Saka for -4. No, I wouldn't do that for -4 personally. Nicholas saying starting 11, Raya, Cancelo, Trent, White, Foden, Martinelli, Saka, Eze, Mitrovic, Haaland, Darwin. Yeah, like that. I don't think you need to make any changes there. Obviously, we have a few question marks about the Darwin situation with his injury, but if you have him, I think you stick with him. Again, if you are a Liverpool owner right now, if you're in the market for a Liverpool player or you are looking to potentially sell one, I would try and wait as late as possible for the information close to the deadline. Because they are the lunchtime kickoff, we do sometimes get some credible sources that kind of announce the team a little bit. Again, that is part of the Twitter community. So if you can get in amongst that, I would recommend doing it close to the deadline. Anger saying, any suggestion for James replacement with naught in the bank? Okay, so if you're looking for a James replacement, firstly, let me get the algorithm points between now and the World Cup, just so we can get a bit of an idea. So Reece James, I believe, is priced around 6.5 million, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Reece James is priced at... It's priced at 6 million. Okay, so you have 6 million available to you. So at 6 million, based on our predicted points, I think an Arsenal defender is a sensible move to go for. It's not glamorous, but someone like a Gabriel would probably be the route that I would recommend. He's predicted to score 16.4 points. Again, because you have no money in the bank, you can't really get to them glamorous options that we touched on. So I like Gabriel over Saliba, because you need to remember Saliba is on 4 yellow cards, so he is 1 game away from a suspension. So I know it's a little bit boring, but I probably would recommend going for someone like Gabriel. Again, Trippier is an option if you don't have him already, but yeah, I think the Arsenal defence is a wise move to go for. Kepa, Gabriel, Trippier, Cancelo, Foden, Saka, Martinelli, Salah, Haaland. Yep, Greg, I think that's a really solid move on team. Big on that one. Danny, drink vodka, what a name. Rate my team, please. Ward, Cancelo, Trippier, Gomez, Salah, Andreas, Martinelli, Almiron. Yeah, I really like it. Danny, I'm going to say to you like I've told everybody, if you go against Haaland captaincy, go with your gut, absolutely. Stick to what you are planning. Just speaking as a person who went against Haaland and he went big, just be cautious that you kind of know what you're getting yourself into a little bit. Naturally, the ownership on Haaland captaincy is going to be monstrous. At home, the form that they're in right now, if you are keen on that, absolutely stick with Salah. But speaking on someone who's had experience, just prepare yourself if Haaland goes big, the effect that it will have on your rank. But again, please don't let that put you off from Salah captain. I think he is a good option. Just be wary of the ownership of Haaland. That is all. Keith, bench 2, Guy, Perisic, Eze and Solanke. Look, I don't really know the situation right now on Perisic, whether he starts or not. Eze, Solanke, I probably would go for the more exciting picks of probably... None of them are that exciting. I'm trying to say exciting picks. Crystal Palace have got Everton away. Look, let's go a bit exciting here. I think you probably go for Eze and Solanke. I don't think they get a penalty, probably. Maybe Perisic and Solanke. That's a tough one, though, buddy. Yep, looking good. What's the strategy? Save some money for future transfers or spend as much as possible? Oh, yeah, and I don't know what that's in relation to, but I think you just kind of buy what's in front of you right now because of the World Cup being only 4 game weeks away. Saving money is good, but then you're kind of saving money for a following game week and you only got 3 game weeks worth to get out of that player. I think if you have a transfer in front of you and get it, you do it because of the short turnaround into the World Cup. Aaron saying my gut says Jesus captain. Look, guys, I'm not going to go against your gut. If you're feeling it, you go for it. Should I sell Kane? I wouldn't personally because it probably is going to require you to do a points hit. And then kind of who you selling to go to, really. That's the thing. And Sunjay saying this will be the last question, guys. How long to hold on for Zaha or should I get in Saka for the Nottingham game? Got in Foden for Trossard this week, though. So then you're probably looking at Zaha as a points hit for Saka. And when it comes into a points hit, then I'm not too big on it. So based on that, if it was a free transfer, yes, I would recommend it. For a points hit, I'm not too big on it. Zaha, I'm not that bullish on him either, but he can do enough to make you regret the decision that you're going for there. So that is it, guys. We're going to wrap it up there. I think we need to nip it in the bud. We've just been going over an hour. I really hope that this has paid dividends and it has been value to you guys. It's been amazing jumping on again, guys. I absolutely love these Friday live streams. I hope you guys are enjoying them as well. And as always, if there are any things that you think you could change to this live stream, please let us know. It's always great feedback, constructive feedback, so we can always improve these live streams going forward. So all that leaves me to say, guys, is have a fantastic game week this week. I really hope that you have a green arrow. You get a decent game week and you can rub it into your mini league rivals as always. We're going to be back as always, guys. A bit of a normal week next week because we don't have any midweek fixtures. So we're going to be back into the usual routine. We got Tom back interviewing managers, which is going to be awesome to see next week. I'll be back with a top transfers video on Tuesday. Eddie's going to be back with the usual content on the algorithm side, and I'll be back for a Friday live stream next week answering all of your questions, and we can catch up, guys, on hopefully what has been a fantastic game week. Wherever you are in the world, have a brilliant evening, have a great weekend outside of FPL. Go out, enjoy yourself, and as always, we will see you on the next stream, guys. Have a brilliant one, and like on the way out if you can. As Keith says, thank you so much for tuning in, Keith, and we'll see you soon, guys. Take care. Cheers.